Fire in the hole. All right, we're back. When we first got this monitor out of the Gorf cabinet, it had a horizontal hold problem. So, excuse me, vertical hold problem. And we might just need to tweak that up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut away and go to the adjustments just a little bit. Kind of hard to adjust, hold the phone camera all at the same time. Well, hot dog. What I figured out was my battery is going dead in my test pattern generator. So I just swapped over on the test pattern generator rather than grabbing another battery. That's pretty decent looking picture. I still think there's a little degauss issue that could stand, but getting it in a stable spot, seeing that our degauss circuit worked was a big plus. Let's take a look at the rings on the tube here and see if they've been disturbed or what may or may not be going on here. Kind of hard to tell. You know, they look like they're in place and haven't been moved. I think I'm going to let that run for a little bit, and well, actually I'm going to turn it off, let it cool, and then let it do another degauss cycle and kind of find its home where it's sitting. And we'll give that a try. If the natural degauss of the chassis doesn't clear it up, then manual degauss will be the next step. But I think that picture looks pretty decent. You know, it could stand some tweaking or adjustment here and there, but for the most part, I think it looks surprisingly good. All right. Nobody told you was going to have to be a carpenter or work power tools in order to fix arcade chassis. Okay. I believe we have our holes drilled. Oh yeah, that board's definitely way stiffer. Okay. Well, that phase of the board repair is complete. We'll tidy up. We'll get our flyback back in there. Mount it up. Yeah, I got our flyback sitting in there. Fits in there nice. Our holes line up a little better. Let's try to run our screws in and have our flyback mounted where we want it. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. Yeah, let's pull this flyback out for just a moment. Now, on the replacement flybacks for G07s, this focus wire comes out of our bottom corner here, and you send the wire up through this center hole on the mounting bracket, and then once it comes up, we're going to shorten it up by probably that much or so. Move this better into frame. We'll shorten it up by a good bit because you want a short run between your flyback and your focus block there. So it's been determined that flyback longevity on these replacements is greatly increased if you shorten that focus wire back up. Now we'll see if we can Get our flyback mounted back in here, pushed back into the board. There we go. Sometimes you got to be a little bit smarter than the flyback, which depending on the day of the week can be a pretty tough call. Let's make sure we got any bent or crooked pins here. That one doesn't look the squarest. Let's try that again. I sometimes find flybacks a little challenging as it is to get those pins lined up and the unit drop back in the hole, but I think part of that is just age and the ability to see the holes anymore. Okay, we got some of them started. There she goes. All right, back in. All of our pins are through. Now before we solder it in, I want to put these screws in and get the flyback mechanically mounted, and then our solder connections last, because I don't want to put the board back on the same kind of bind it was on before. Also, by putting these screws in and tightening the flyback to the metal frame, that gives us strain relief to not crack or damage the board in the future. All right, I like that a little better. We got one pad here that we're going to have to figure out or fix up. So we're going to solder our flyback in. We'll fix that pad that was tore up from the crack. And then we'll go around the board, do general reflow work. Now, when you do these type of board repairs, you can find a little bit of difficulty getting your pins soldered if you got any CA coating the face of that pad at all, because it will burn through eventually, but you'll have to heat it and mess with it just a little more than you might think. Well, I am not doing so good at keeping this in frame for us, am I? All right. Let's prop that up. Let's look for a component leg here. Kind of coil around and give us a sense of a pad. One of the little tricks I like to do is as I replace capacitors and whatnot, I just keep a little cup here of all my cut off component legs, so when I need a piece of wire for a repair of this nature, I've got ready-made little pile of component legs, and I'm not sacrificing a new one or cutting something off that don't need cut off. Alright, that's looking pretty good. That'll give us a little better place to solder to. Cut that leg off and flatten out our little wire project here. Okay, I like the looks of that. Let's see if we can get this pad tinned up. Oh yeah, it's taking solder pretty good. All right, that's got us a pretty good bite. There we go. Kind of like that positioning a little better. All right, got us a good solid connection there. We have our G07 finished board here. All of our reflow work's done. The board has been cleaned. Our neck board, you can see we don't have all the flux and goobers on it. I think these are kind of snarly from the factory, but looks clean and tidy now that we've given it a good scrub with toothbrush and alcohol. Got our top side of the board. I think we're ready to go back on the tube, and I want to show you something I had talked about, that I was concerned that the degauss could have not been working, and I tested that, but I want to show you how I tested it. So we'll take a look at how the degauss functions over on the tube. We've got our chassis mounted back to our tube and frame. Now our degauss connection is down here. We've got our two degauss points. They're not polarity sensitive. It's an AC circuit. Now how the degauss works is down on this board. I don't know if you can see it down in there or not, but that is our thermistor. And what it does is when it is cold, it is very low resistance and allows almost full AC current to flow. The moment current starts flowing through it, it warms up, and as it warms, its resistance increases to the point that it'll turn the degauss off because the resistance is so high. So what we'll see on a cold chassis, or at least a cold thermistor, is the moment we apply power, we should see a spike to near 120 volts AC, and then it should rapidly drop down to 0 or close. And that tells us that we had a degauss cycle when you first turned the monitor on. Because the purity and whatnot was so bad on the monitor when I first pulled it out, I did do a manual degauss on it, and I also let the chassis degauss. But because it was so bad at first, I thought perhaps a degauss problem, but the circuit is working. So without further ado, I'm going to have a little further ado. Let's go just double check our connections. We've got our high voltage anode, we've got our PCB on the neck, we've got our ground to the neck PCB, we've got power, we have our degauss hooked up, we've got signal hooked up, and the cable comes around to our signal generator. We'll go ahead and turn it on. And without further ado now, fire in the hole. We saw our high spike, and now it's down to just fractions of a volt. And that showed us our degauss worked. Now, looking at our test pattern generator and our picture looks pretty darn good. Brightness is up perhaps a little much, but these G07 tubes do have kind of a white cast to them. But we'll tweak it just a little bit, and then we're going to slide this back in the Gorf cabinet, and all should be well. We're back with the Gorf cocktail table. We've got our monitor reinstalled. We've got everything hooked back up inside. Our board stack is bolted down, which it was only held by one screw before, but we've got 4 in it now, so it won't go anywhere. I used my shop vac to suck out the various acorns. There was actually some critter skeleton parts, but we got all that cleaned out of there, and we are ready for fire in the hole. And what that's going to consist of is when I close the coin door, it's going to shut that service switch and power the unit up. So that should power up monitor, board stack, everything, and we should be gorfing. Fire in the hole. Ho ho ho! Hot diggity dog! Okay, let's coin up. Speech board's working. All 4 ways on the joystick. Okay. I believe we have a successful repair. We just need to clean our glass, put our underlayment and our glass in. Alright, we've got our Gorf in here. Played a couple of games, make sure that it went through. Just quick and dirty, I could make it to space kernel. But what I'm noticing, I did dial the monitor in a little bit and got the colors looking a lot better. I found that I had some screen jump and some vertical jitter. Jitter is where I'm going next. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but you really see it when those high scores come up, that there's just a little bit of jumping, a little bit of jitter that happens in the letters. And I want to chase that down. I'm really thinking it might be a cap in the vertical circuit, in which case leads me to probably end up doing a cap kit. I researched Zycon as a cap manufacturer, and Google says that they're a low-end, budget-friendly capacitor for DIY. First I thought maybe I wouldn't chase that cap kit. There we go. Down on the player 1, 2, you might be able to see it a little bit. I'm just not happy with that little teeny bit of jitter on letters. You don't see it in game or gameplay. But where I was going with, what I was having was a vertical hold pot. The potentiometer itself, I had hit them all with deoxit, wiped them good, and did some setup from there. Clear back when it was over on the test tube, but I still had some funkiness and some occasional picture distortion and loss of vertical hold. Had to put a main PCB pot kit in, just replaced all 4 pots on the PC board and got the picture stable and clear that way. We have our G07 chassis here from the Gorf Cocktail Cabinet, and what I found was a cap problem in the vertical circuit. Found a couple of cap problems actually. I found an out of spec cap for the vertical circuit, I found a bipolar that was bulging, and I found 3 100 mic caps that were only spec'd at 16 volt in the unit, but they're supposed to be 50 volt. I should have figured out or thought that I needed to go through the previous tech's work on the cap kit. When they didn't put the flyback in correctly, cracked the board, and didn't shorten up the G2 wire, I should have known that it was a potential issue with the caps. Even though they had been changed, I still didn't know how long. So after I figured that out, I went ahead and did a full cap kit, including the B plus cap, the filter cap, and I still had a little funkiness that I did not like, and I ultimately replaced the vertical IC here at IC501 and HA11244, and that was the final correction. So we have the chassis back to a tip-top status and all is well, and we're going to get it back in the machine, do a final look and clean that glass, put the top back on, and call her good. Here is our finished product Gorf. Got our top all clean and shiny, as you can see by the glare on the glass. But we got the monitor fixed and made bulletproof with our PCB crack repair where the flyback was installed incorrectly. We did the curl mod. We replaced the main PCB adjustment pots because of a specifically scratchy and faulty vertical hold. Did a cap kit where we found a bad capacitor, found some wrong valued capacitors, and they were all a lesser brand by Zycon. About 10 years ago is best estimate on that replacement. The Gorf board stack, all 6 boards cleaned, edge connectors cleaned and polished, all chips pulled, legs burnished, put back in, whole cage cleaned, edge connector for the board stack all cleaned and deoxit D5'd. We then found some color circuit problems on the Gorf board itself, and we were missing green and red at times. We got that solved, and we're up to 100%. Got the lock pulled out and a thumb screw put in its place so that there is better and easier access into the cabinet. Looks like we have all of our lights working, hardware's back on, and we have a fantastic Gorf cocktail. You are repaired, Gorf cocktail. Fro-Dog is unstoppable. Thank you for joining me at Fro-Dog Arcade Repair. I hope you enjoyed the video, found it useful, or at least entertaining. Please subscribe below, like, follow, and share with your friends. And remember, fire in the hole.